Indians failed to retain their crown. Despite fumbling at the last stage though, this Indian team won a billion hearts. Batting, bowling, fielding. The team excelled in all departments. And before their next international assignment, we'll look at the road ahead for Dhoni's men in this special broadcast. Our stars will now flock to domestic cricket's biggest carnival before donning their blue jerseys again. But the big question is, can they carry on the momentum from the World Cup and rise back to the top? We focus on what worked for India and what didn't work for India in the just concluded 2015 World Cup. First up, top 5 moments that were the highlights for India in their campaign. The Pacers, Ravichandran Ashwin and Dhoni's leadership catching everyone's attention. Let's take a look at our top 5 highs from the World Cup.
At number 5 are the Indian batsmen. After a horrific run in the Tri-Series, Indian batsmen showed character in the World Cup. In every game, at least one batsman rose to the occasion. Shikhar, Rohit, Kohli and Raina all slamming at least 1 ton each. They, though, failed as a unit in the high-pressure clash against Australia at the SCG. At number 4 is India's fielding. The young Indian side were agile in the field and Dhoni's team was undoubtedly one of the better units. Mohit Sharma's run out of A.B. de Villiers was the high point of Indian fielding. In the group stages, Indian fielders took as many as 45 catches, which is the highest among all sides in the tournament.
We have got some excellent fielders and apart from that we have got fast bowlers who are above average fielders. So overall, I've got plenty to play with.
At number 3 is Ravichandran Ashwin. Ashwin has matured as a bowler and was spot on in the 2015 World Cup. On tracks which were expected to suit the fast bowlers, Ashwin emerged as an unlikely hero. He was Mahi's go-to bowler as he picked 13 wickets at an average of 25.38 in his 8 matches. The offie looked dangerous and tried to pick wickets instead of trying to save runs. At number 2 is the master tactician, India's most successful skipper in the World Cups, Mahi. MS Dhoni failed to defend his crown, but Dhoni's innovations and leadership skills won many hearts. He led from the front, but a bad day at Sydney saw the men in blue crash out of the tournament. But before reaching the semis, Dhoni overtook Clive Lloyd's record of most number of consecutive wins in a World Cup, and also shattered Kapil Dev's record of the most number of wins by an Indian captain in the World Cup. At number 1 are the Indian fast bowlers. The trio of Mohammad Shami, Umesh Yadav and Mohit Sharma led India's bowling in the World Cup. When the World Cup began, very few considered Indian bowling to be lethal. But to everyone's amazement, Indian bowlers dismissed 7 teams in a row, Pacers striking 43 out of 70 wickets.
Hopefully, what the fast bowlers have learnt in this tour, they'll keep that in their mind because we won't be playing outside the subcontinent, till next year maybe. So it's very important for them to, keep in mind what really they have learnt. Hopefully they'll have some storage space.
As Team India looks ahead, we hope that the men in blue will build on from here and strive to be numero uno in the ODIs. Sports Bureau, headlines today.
The performance of the Indian Pacers surely took the cake really as far as this World Cup is concerned. But the big question is, Nikhil, as MS Dhoni said, can we keep this going? For so long we wanted our pace attack to function as a unit and for so long we've been disappointed. What will it take to keep this going? As MS said, we don't play outside the subcontinent for a long time now.
Well, I guess the most important thing is the discipline, line and length that they stuck to, and also, when you're not bowling very quick, Shivani, you've got to allow the ball to do something in the air, and that is only going to happen when you pitch it up. If it's going to be in the air, it'll do something. You give it a chance. If you start digging it in short, it'll be very, very difficult. And also the discipline. You know, they weren't allowing the batsmen any sort of width to free their arms. The 4 balls had cut down. Such a contrast from the Australian summer, the 10-day gap where the captain sat the quicker bowlers down in whatever, I think, camp that they'd gone to, sat. They must have gone through the videos where they're bowling, where they shouldn't be bowling, and where they should be bowling as well. So they're stuck. And they stuck to a game plan, and the execution was spot on. So as a bowler, I guess you need to try and understand that the new ball, especially when you're playing the subcontinent as well, you need to try and pick wickets early enough. If you don't do that, you know, then the whole balance of the side also tilts away. You know, then the spinners won't be as effective as they were if you don't pick up wickets. So I guess, you know, the important thing is it's the mindset of the quicker bowlers that we need to pick up the wickets.
What should we credit this to, Borea? The only thing that's really changed is Ravi Shastri in the support staff. Should he be given most of the credit?
He should definitely be given credit. In fact, I was speaking to a number of people in the team management, and what they told me was that after the England tour, when the players were down, they were very scared. I mean, even if they go out, what will the media say? If they do something, what will somebody say? Ravi Shastri went and told them, play, you know, just whatever problems you have, you come and tell me. I will solve those. You go and play your cricket. Now, the players got very inspired and motivated as a result, because here's somebody who was there as a sounding board. They could sort of open up to Ravi Shastri, they could sort of confide in Ravi Shastri, and that way Ravi has made a significant contribution. Question is, can Ravi now do the job permanently without Duncan Fletcher, now that he's gone or will be gone? Ravi Shastri needs to become coach if he has to contribute long term. This team director thing will not work, because as team director you only do up to a point and no more.
Right.
Why not coach? Because you are doing it hands on, as you and I have seen in Australia.
Absolutely. It seems he's already really the man who's calling the shots, even with Duncan Fletcher there. And now, of course, the big question remains, do they get a replacement for Duncan Fletcher, or will they allow and give a free rein to Ravi Shastri? We spoke to former chief selector Dilip Vengasarkar also on the highs for India in this World Cup.
So you looked at the World Cup. What are the positives India take away from it, and how different could the campaign had been, you think? What are the areas which could have made it even more delightful for India?
See, if you see the entire Test match series against Australia, you know, and the one day try series, I think India fared very badly. But the way they picked up, I think the World Cup is really exceptional, I would say, because I think they won 7 games out of 8 games. So it's an excellent performance by them.
The turnaround surely was magnificent, but we shift our focus from the highs to areas where Team India needs to improve. The men in blue were terrific in most departments, but there were a couple of low points in the campaign. Take a look. While Virat started the World Cup on a high note, becoming the first Indian to score a century versus Pakistan in a World Cup, his form dipped after that. Especially in the knockout stage, this hurt the team. As the number 3 and the best batsman of the team, Kohli's blade was crucial, and his failure against Australia broke the back of the chains. Australia was always going to be India's stiffest challenge, but probably no one expected them to tame India so easily. That's because the men in blue hardly tripped before the semi-finals, bulldozing past oppositions. The fact that they were not tested at all till before the semis meant they couldn't quite correct what did go wrong in the last 4 stage. The man who terrorized India with 4 centuries in the Test series returned to haunt the subcontinent giants again in Sydney. While the Pacers had done remarkably well till then, they just didn't have the answers to Steven Smith's prowess, and that proved lethal for the team. Ravindra Jadeja's credentials as the go-to man for MS Dhoni took a serious beating this World Cup, with hardly anything of note from the Saurashtra man throughout the tournament. While Ashwin topped the charts in terms of economy for India during the 2015 World Cup, Jadeja was at the bottom of the list of 5 bowlers. His strike rate too was the worst. The only thing more depressing than Jadeja's bowling in the World Cup was Jadeja's batting. There was not one innings of note from the so-called all-rounder. He could only manage 57 runs in 5 innings, and what's worse is that he didn't last long usually, facing only 59 balls. Sometimes all that was required from him was support for the other batsmen. Exactly what is Jadeja's utility abroad has become the most pertinent question for India post the World Cup. Sports Bureau headlines today. Is Jadeja really that utility player that MS keeps talking about? Boria, do you think a serious beating of Jadeja's reputation has happened since this World Cup? Because both with the ball and with the bat, nobody knew what his utility is.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. When you compare Jadeja to the other number 7s, James Faulkner, Corey Anderson on occasions. And if you see, JP Duminy for South Africa, it just doesn't match up. What was his job? You come and slog every ball, you'll get out. 1 in 10 innings will you fire? That's not the way to bat in international cricket, especially in overseas conditions. As a bowler, did not do the job. I thought number 7 was a serious weakling for India. And you've got to get somebody who is good enough in overseas conditions. Ravindra Jadeja has got enough opportunities, Shivani. Enough opportunities, and that for India has to be rectified if we want to be a good enough side.
Yes, that was going to be my other point. He's got a really long run. MS Dhoni finds him a utility player in India, especially. But Nikhil, you don the hat of a selector as well. Do you think the spin cupboard is bare? Should we be worried? Do we have options?
Well, I guess in terms of a frontline spinner, I think the key words, Shivani, that you use in India, he's a utility cricketer because he can bowl the 10 overs and be more useful to the side. But in overseas conditions, when the ball's, not turning as much, there's not so much purchase, there are a lot of skills that he can go out there and look to fox the batsman and try and pick up wickets. And as a number 7 batsman in a one-day international, 5, 6 and 7 are very key positions. So you really would want to be thinking that, somebody who can go out there and get boundaries at will, you need to try and find somebody. And your question to try and get the frontline spinner in India, I'm sure, in the domestic circuit, there are a couple of guys who might do a better job than Jadeja. But it's just that the reputation that he can go out there and prove. But like Boria and you've been saying, the opportunities have been given a lot to Jadeja.
Right.
If he's got to be a consistent feature in the Indian team, he's got to be more consistent as a batsman at number 7. 10 overs I'm not worried about. He needs to get more runs.
Definitely can't be called an all-rounder. I think that has been proven after this World Cup. Listen to what Dilip Vengasarkar had to say about the question on spin.
But apart from Ashwin, I think we don't see good spinners. I think he would play for India very soon or something like that. So we had to look for those bowlers basically, and if we can have a good bench strength, it will definitely help the team in future. Because if somebody had got injured, then I think a bench strength has to be solid, so that you don't fill the void.
There were a lot of performers for India in the World Cup, but do you think Jadeja was that one weak link that didn't work?
Well, in hindsight, you can say that, and I wouldn't like to say that because Yuvraj would have made a lot of difference. You see, that's what I feel. But then you can say these things in hindsight.
Did the selectors miss a trick when you look back at the World Cup?
Yeah, I guess. Amit Mishra also should have been there. That's what I feel, because he's leg spinner, and he would have been very good, very helpful, especially in middle overs.
All right, quick final reaction from Boria and Nikhil. Nikhil, space door open for Yuvraj Singh?
Well, I think so. And the way he's been getting runs, the way he's been batting in the shorter version, I hope he can make a comeback to the Indian side, because there is, of course, that space for him to go out there and win many more games.
Boria, will that be going back, or should there be no issue if we call back Yuvraj?
See, in cricket there is never say never. You can call back anybody, but for my side, the problem is, and most importantly, somebody needs to tell MS Dhoni, you are the best batsman in the T20 and ODI format. For God's sake, bat number 4. In that match against Australia, after Virat Kohli got out, how did you win the World Cup final? MS Dhoni at 4. Ravi Shastri as team director, tell him go and bat 4 and not when 4 wickets are down. That for me is another huge problem. MS Dhoni doesn't choose MS Dhoni enough in this team.
IPL action beckons now, and there's already a controversy raging with the BCCI and KKR at loggerheads over Sunil Narayan's inclusion. BCCI wants Narayan to undergo fresh biomechanical tests for his bowling action, which was deemed suspect during the last year's Champions League but was since cleared. Some reports suggest KKR have threatened to pull out if the star bowler is not allowed to play. Despite a stellar show in the 2015 World Cup, Glenn Maxwell was not included in Australia's squad for the upcoming Ashes series. There's also no room for World Cup winner James Faulkner. Fawad Ahmed and Adam Borges were the surprise inclusions. And Azhar Ali has been confirmed as Pakistan's new ODI captain. The 30-year-old takes over the reins from Misbah, who retired after Pakistan's dismal show. It comes as a surprise as Azhar was not part of Pakistan's World Cup squad. He will lead for the first time against Bangladesh next month. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Sports Today. News and updates continue after a very short break. Stay tuned.